Welcome, every pony, to a very special Cutie Art Crusaders. This Hearts and Hooves Day, we've got something extra special planned for all of you pony folk. But first, let me introduce the ones who put the special in extra special. Introducing Time Master Extraordinaire with the flaming hair and a bucket of cookie dough ice cream. It's Rainbow Plasma. He's got the knowledge in his noggin and enough locks to lock it all up inside. The sage with a cage, Bernard. This pony is smooth as silk and spreads like butter. Enjoy the sultry giggles of your art coordinator, Flutterguy. And finally, last but certainly not least, he's silent but deadly and will strike where you least expect it. From down under, the Quizmaster Extraordinaire, my little Pinkie Pie. And of course, yours truly, the manliest brony in the world, DustyKatt.
Oh, that was fantastic.
That was great.
Can I get a round of applause for that?
DustyKatt, everybody, give him a hand. Give him a hand.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was great.
Welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders. This is episode
34.
34 for February 19th, 2013. We obviously have already gone through our introductions, so there's no need for that. But we do have a very special guest on today, Mr. DustyKatt himself.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
And I thought just because we were discussing the art of love this week, that who better than...
And romance.
...than the most romantic brony in the entire world.
You flatter me. You flatter me. It'll get you everywhere.
We aim to go far here.
One more thing before we start.
Yes.
I just wanted to point something out, because this is going to be throughout the entire episode, but my audio is god-awful.
Because it's from the 80s.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
80s mic.
You're right. It is 80s week, as you saw from that wonderful intro that all of us contributed towards, which I'll talk about in a second. But my audio, personally, is pretty awful. And the reason for that is because, unfortunately, I forgot my microphone when I came home for a break, and I had to buy a new one, and it's just... it's just awful, and I truly apologize for that. But, you know, show goes on, right?
Show must go on.
We did it for the theme, we swear.
The show must
I should have grabbed I have a 50s, 60s era mic around here somewhere.
Yeah, it was for authenticity, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
As Queen sang, the show must go on.
As Pinkie Dash mentioned, or someone mentioned, I don't remember who, we had a very special intro this week, which DustyKatt has not seen yet, but he will see.
I'm sure.
But it was put together by me, Flutterguy, Burned, and Silver, who did our icons before, who is also the person who's done the amazing 80s icons that you're seeing on the screen right now with all of us. So that's going to be awesome for you guys to see for sure. We obviously have to look at our blank screens because that's how recording works.
We also
but,
happen to have a very special avatar for DustyKatt as well.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really?
It's actually something special that we made for you, just special for this episode.
I might have to steal that for Twitter.
And I'll throw that in the Skype chat there for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
So that'll be your little avatar on the screen joining us today.
Oh my goodness. That is so awesome.
That's fantastic.
That was me.
That was fantastic.
I love the fact that you gave him like a fuzzy chest.
Oh yes.
Yes,
No
it is
manliest
perfect.
brony in the world would be fit without the fuzzy chest.
Without the fuzzy chest, trust me. Because you need a Sherpa to get through my chest hairs, boys. You get lost in there.
Can I just say I love your cutie mark?
Oh, thank you. Yes.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, the double piston. I do like it.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Rainbow Plasma?
Oh, no, I was just saying, I had no idea that... I think I remembered something along the lines of you saying, hey, I was going to do something, but I didn't remember I didn't see what you were doing. That looks really awesome.
Yeah, it was just a little last thing threw together for Dusty here.
That's an insta save. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, you're quite welcome.
We do a lot of last minute things that way.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
kind of our thing.
You guys wouldn't know how last minute my show really is.
That's fantastic.
Oh, man. That's part
Becomes
of the fun,
part of
though.
the business, right?
Yes, it is. Comes with the territory.
Speaking of last minutes, look at how many minutes we've wasted when we could be talking about
goodness.
fantastic
We could
pieces of
be
art.
talking art
So, yeah.
here. We need to
Wasted
be
the last
back.
five.
We need to be
Last.
talking art.
Got them in there.
So, Burned, what's our theme this week, if people don't already know?
All right. Well, our theme this week, besides the lovely 80s intro and 80s avatars and stuff, is Valentine's Day.
Schmoopy-doo!
Happy Hearts and Hooves Day theme to you all.
Schmoopy-doo.
Got some great pieces featured with tons of Valentine's / Hearts and Hooves Day content here. And what better way to start it off with one of the saddest and most depressing pieces
Yep.
that I found on the internet the other day. I thought it was awesome.
So our first piece is called Happy Broken Hearts and Hooves Day by Test27.
Aw.
It's
This piece is a little slice of awesome because you get the whole thing in 3 panels. You get a minimalist line style, and it tells you everything you need to know in the minimalist line style of a really good cartoonist.
It's fantastic, well said.
yeah. No, I mean, yeah.
I love the fact that immediately he's going to show us up on our own show because he went straight for the gold, and I was like, oh damn, that's really good points.
Well, it's like, I'm not I've never looked at comics, like, per se, and I'm not, like, a comic aficionado. Like, the most thing I have behind my belt is, like, art appreciation. So it's like, when I look at something like this, it's hard for me to decipher what's done well, what's not done well.
Well, many people might not know this about me, but I was actually a nationalist comic book guy. And back in the mid-90s, I did have comic work released in comic books. So I have done this before a little bit. So there's some things like, oh wow, yeah, that's kind of line style, and
That's awesome.
it evokes a little bit more of Stan Sakai to me because of his line style that he still does to this day.
Oh, that's really cool.
I must say, I'm a huge fan of the short comics like these ones, where it's only like 3 or 4 panels. The ones that are really long and like drawn out, I can't get into them at all.
Yeah. To, like, adequately portray your, like, meaning or what you want to do in a comic, like, the shorter it is. Something impressive about that.
Exactly. If you want to get your message across, do it quickly, but do it well. Don't just like draw it out. If it's a story, it's a story. It's not a comic.
Also, like, how the panel with the most meaning is, like, the largest one.
Yes.
That
Poor sad Twilight.
that expression too.
Aw.
Yeah, I'm going to
It'll
be
be a
honest.
long
I think I just picked this comic because I looked at that expression and was like, oh. But who
okay, you have wings
is
now.
saying in this chat that they have another version of this that's colored?
Oh, that was me. I have a
Right.
version of this.
And I think, you were talking to me about that, and I think I prefer it in that kind of, simplistic style with just the black and the white. I'm not
Yeah,
sure what it
I
is,
was-
but...
I was arguing back because it's like I had first originally seen the colored version and I didn't take the time to look in like the comics or comments to see if it was like actually colored or who like did the original. But yeah, he mentions the original artist, but he doesn't have a link. Let me grab this little link here. And all he did was add a background color and then color in Twilight to be show accurate. So I had thought that was the original, and I saw this, and it was completely different to what I had actually seen it for. And it's like just like the straight up black and white line work actually does like carry a lot more feeling because it puts way more emphasis and feeling into just like the straight up line art and the expression of the character, where the colors kind of distract from that a little bit.
Well, a black and white is basically shorthand for a dark and sad feeling. Okay, so even if you did a colored piece in panel 1 and panel 2, the third panel would have a dulled color scheme. So it'd still be the violet, but it would be a dulled version of the violet to bring the meaning down.
Interesting.
Cool.
Well, I didn't want to linger on this one too long because a couple of reasons. It's just a fun little piece, and also I really, really didn't want to make the Valentine's Day episode like depressing because I really like Valentine's Day and I think it's a very positive holiday. A lot of people don't agree, but so I think we might just leave this one for now and people can go and analyze it on their own. But we want to move on to one that I picked especially for DustyKatt here because I know you're a personal fan of Cheerily. I think that's general knowledge. And so we picked out something. Ted, do you want to introduce this piece to him?
Sure.
Sweet and kind.
This piece is called Schmoopy Doopy Sweetie Weedy Pony Pie by Joey Bean.
Oh,
Who actually, Joe Bean, I was just rewatching our fan art episode. He sent us in fan art, which was amazing. And I think we might have featured something else by him on the show, but yeah, he's an awesome artist.
Yes.
But again with this piece, the minimalist line style in the background, where you have just enough lines to give the trees and the heart shape in the center, which basically gives you the feeling of the triangle of the piece. If you go down the trees, you have a triangle base between the two characters, and the trees bring you up to the center, which brings your eye to the center, and then when you come straight down, you see the heart and hoof.
Yeah, definitely the composition of this piece is very well done in that regards.
Mm-hmm. I love when composition wraps around something, when it wraps around the focus, wraps around the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it really brings your eye right into the center of the piece, which is good because Cheerilee and Big Mac are supposed to be the focus. Also, that heart in the hoof.
That was a great idea.
It shows that the artist has taken the time in their setup of the piece to actually go, okay, where do I want my viewer's eye to land?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's sort of like when you're doing a comic book and how a comic book reads, how you're going to lay it out. It needs to be read from left to right and up to down. So basically, it's the same thing with a still piece. Is you're trying to draw your audience's eye to a certain point. So being able to do that as an artist is the first thing that you should really learn when you actually start to draw. It's okay, what do I want my audience to feel, but how do I want them to see the piece?
Yeah, for sure. That's absolutely something that we talk about a lot on the show is a lot of the interpretation of how people are going to see your art as an artist is how they first experience it. And so if they have a bad first experience, and so if they're searching around for things, then they might catch something that they're not supposed to, The focus of this piece is, right down the center, whether it's the heart made out of, tree branches, or the piece in the middle, our eyes aren't supposed to go to the trees on the side. They're just supposed to fill the background and kind of complete themselves as we're not looking at them. And it does a really good job of that. And I think it's really cool how in this piece, the line art itself isn't exactly the cleanest quote-unquote line art. There's things going outside the lines, and it's kind of messy, and it looks kind of like a sketch. But, I mean, there's so much more to it than just like, yeah, this person just threw it together. Because there is all of these aspects of composition that are very obviously there.
Yeah,
a lot of artists... Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, sometimes
a lot of artists...
Oh, God.
That was great. Beautiful.
Please, you, sir.
No, you go
it's me,
ahead.
sir.
No,
okay.
you.
All right.
It's your show.
You are our guest. You, sir, by all means.
Well, anyway, I've seen a lot of artists that have wonderful pencils. Beautiful, expressive pencil work, and then just basically wreck it with inks. Basically, they take all the feeling away from it because it's too sterile, is what I would call it. It's too perfect. They use technical pens, and they don't use a brush, and they don't have line weight, or any of that stuff. In this picture, you can see a ton of different line weight, and the lines are interesting for the eye to actually see. If you take a look at the lines on Big Mac's left front leg, they actually are not perfect. They go in and out a little bit, and it makes your eye want to actually, take, oh wow, that's here, and then that draws you around to say, okay, there's a lot of things going on here. It gives the piece life, as it were.
Definitely. I definitely really agree with that, and I really like to see that in art. Like his outlines, Big Mac's, they're a lot thicker than like say Cheerilee's outlines, especially like on his arm. You'll notice hers is thinner, hers is thicker.
Correct.
Vice versa of what I just said. But no, I definitely love artwork like that. Something we try to stress on the show is like not everything always has to be pristine. There can be line art that is imperfect, and it's not a bad thing. A lot of times it's a good thing, especially in a piece like this.
There's a guy named Jackson Pollock who sold a lot of paintings for a lot of money by throwing paint at a wall.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I loved Ed and Eddie. It didn't have those solid outlines. It had those shaky, like the outlines were always constantly shaking, constantly moving. Made it very unique. But another point I wanted to make, you mentioned how like the line work and the composition creates that focus and causes your eyes to drift. But I find it's not only one of the reasons why I wanted to actually feature this piece was not only because of the line work, but because of the limited and muted colors, and because of the kind of minimalistic colors. How it's basically just using red, and it has kind of like that pink saturated red for the characters, and then for the heart and the hoof, and it has that really deep red in the heart and deep red in the hoof, and it will cause you to look at that. It'll cause the first thing your eye to go to. I mean, the very center of this piece is that heart, and then you have the two characters also being accented by that little bit of red, and they accent each other in their little colors, how they each have their little color theme, and I also really like that. Kind of like connects both of them.
Yes, well done.
They're also cute. I mean, come on.
I can't help but look at this and be like, oh.
It's so cute.
Love how her eyes are pink.
Yeah.
His pink hair and eyes.
I just wanted to say that I really love the way that he's used the colours and like use everything as the one colour except for the heart. I just wanted to say that. It's probably been said, but I want to say it anyway.
Yeah, no.
Because I love it.
I kind of want to go off of DustyKatt's observation about the line art and the inconsistent lines. It looks like Big Macintosh has some, like, if you remember back to, I think it was our sketch episode, where we talked about Joey Darkmeat's sketches, how he does like a thick outline and the inner lines are really thin. Big Mac kind of has some of that going on, like you can see in his ear, how it's a thick outer outline and a thin inner
his chin,
outline.
his mouth, his neck guard, his hair.
Yeah, so it just kind of gives it that little bit of separation from the background. And
yeah. Well, how he kind of the two focal points, he kind of like, he has that really the thicker line for the two characters, and then for the things that are in the background and the receded, they have a much smaller, much thinner line. Yeah, so separating, because what is it, line, what's the word I'm looking for, line quality?
Right, line quality, line weight.
Yeah, line weight. Just line in general is something really important to consider, especially when you're making art in line, something like this, with line. That was the first thing we learned in drawing one, was the importance of line, whether it's thickness or waviness, organicness, straightness, so on and so forth.
You must be lying. All right, moving on.
Yep.
Last bit before we move on.
Go ahead.
We did have Joey Bean on our fan art episode, and one thing we mentioned there, and I want to mention again, is he's making these awesome little card. What is it? The episode,
the title cards.
Yeah, the title cards for the episodes. He's still making them, and they're still awesome. You should go check that out.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to stop now, I guess.
For the time being.
Yeah. All right.
So our next piece is called Hearts and Hooves Day by Stick Figure Queen. And this is something that we really haven't had on the show before. It's kind of a textured background with a very simplistic kind of design. It almost looks like a stamp kind of thing.
It's like one of those little Valentine card things that you would get at school or wherever that someone would hand you. It's very simplistic. It would fit nice on a card, and you look at it and you like it. So it was simple, so we wanted to include it. And there's a lot of really cool aspects behind it and about the character portrayed that I know Rainbow Plasma just goes crazy for.
I do.
The nice thing about this piece is that it's got the same sort of draw of the eye, but using a circle instead of a triangle, to where your eye is again drawn to the center of the circle, where you see the heart, and then you have the pony hugging the heart with a big smile on her face, and then Be My Special Sun Pony. So it basically is the same sort of thing, where the artist has drawn you as the watcher into where he wants you to see.
Makes you peer into it,
it makes you peer into it. And if you look at, say, where the shine is on the right rear hoof, you see all these little white lines coming out from the hoof through the outline of the character. And it sort of like draws your eye to that point.
Not only that, it's just visually interesting,
Yes. It makes it much visually interesting.
Yeah.
If I want to look at it, it's like I look at the whole thing because of that bright value on like the outline of it, or that gradient or on the outside, but I don't notice the heart at first. I don't even notice that she's hugging a heart, but because of all those features you mentioned, it makes me want to look at it and peer into it and notice like, oh, she is hugging a heart. That's cute.
Yeah, like when you first take a look at it, the heart kind of fades into the background, but as you look closer at it, you kind of tend to notice these things.
All right. Well, I know I'm the one who wanted this on the show, and you guys were like, well, I don't know. But I really wanted this because it does something, it has this technique that I really like, which is it uses almost like very, very close hues. So it has, you know, the red in the hair, the pink in the background, the pink in the heart, even the text color, and even a very light complementary hue with the body color. But in general, it's a lot like when we had the Colgate and the Roseluck episodes. We had a lot of pieces like that. And that's something personally that I find is really, really awesome when artists don't use people can use a wide variety of colors and it can look good. But when an artist uses like one color and says, I'm going to make an entire piece with one color, just variations of it, I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And it's a lot tougher than you think it is.
Exactly. And I mean, there's a lot of things about this piece. For example, the fact that the outlines don't match the fills, and so her nose is coming out of her nose and the hair is coming out of her hairlines and things like that. That's so cool to me. And it just, you know, I don't know why pieces of art like this work for some people, but if you were to try to do that, or not, I wouldn't say you, I would say if I tried to do that, it'd be like, no, that looks silly. And it's just, it amazes me that someone can do that in such a way because, you know, everybody's told, and everybody's told incorrectly, you know, draw inside the lines and do this and do that. When in reality, this piece proves to you that no, you don't have to.
Yeah, that's one of the worst things you can be told as a kid when you're in grade school. It's like, oh, take the crayons and color inside the lines. No. No. Take the crayons outside the lines, and then when you're done with it, throw paint at it. And then when you're done with that,
but society,
dye it
society
a different color.
Then fold it up and make origami.
Finger paints.
We're not here about...
He's a dreamer.
Yes, we're not here about society.
Smash him down.
We want paper airplanes.
I really like the strange texture she's got going on the outlines there.
Yeah.
With like the white lines going everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like they're not really rather white lines. They're erased
It's like
through it.
It's like there's a pattern behind it, and it's just come through the strokes or the outlines. Sorry, strokes, vector term.
Yeah. And that's why, my friends, font is so important. I had to teach Bernd this like a couple of weeks ago because Bernd.
What is font?
Bernd,
How do I font?
you understand font, and I'm not saying anything against you, but you were like, yeah, I'll just use some font, and I was like, no, one does not just use some font. Font is an art within itself. I think we should have a font episode at some point, because as a video editor, I think
one
it's
does
very
not
important.
simply use Comic Sans.
Oh God, no.
Oh god.
Well, I think Bernd knew enough not to use Comic Sans. But
Can we use Comic Sans for that episode?
I was like, I'll just use Arial, and then Rainbow Plasma was like, no.
yeah, he was like, I'll use Arial. I was like, no, that's the default. Oh. Awful.
Oh goodness.
Did I just say
But
falafel?
no,
Falafel.
I think so.
Oh God.
So anyway, I sent someone a piece of art this morning, and they responded with, "Oh my good waffles," and I was like, "That's a surprisingly tasteful morning compliment."
Huh.
Anyway, no, the point you made about this is how it's extraordinary. It's simple. It's a lot more simple than some of the stuff we show on the show. I think even I sometimes have the problem with I'll look at something like this that it has so many simplistic features to it, and I'll appreciate it less than something that's extraordinarily complex. And I find that's a problem in a lot of art, or like even people look at art, is that they'll appreciate the more complex and the more time put into something. But sometimes there's something really respectable about the simplisticness of something that, like, I find that sometimes I lack to appreciate, and it's not something that I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm glad we had this piece on the show.
It's almost like an unconscious bias against it.
As an artist, being able to create great art with minimalist lines is the true talent.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to make something beautiful out of 3 lines and make it look like something and make your audience actually see what it is a talent beyond bar none.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can spend 6 months and a lot of time to make something look, photorealistic. But can someone do this constantly and with this kind of quality? And that's talent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of interesting things going on with this piece. I mean, it is simplistic in nature, but, there's shading to it. There's the whole composition to it, behind it. And, it draws your eye in, and it's not really, like, it looks simplistic, but there was a lot of planning behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Much like you were talking about with the previous piece, with the whole composition of that. And I think one of the reasons why I like it so much is because you were mentioning it's a picture on a textured background and text. Guess what this show is? It's a picture on a textured background. With text.
With text.
See this? You might see why I like it, because that is exactly my style of editing videos. Textured background. Nice looking picture. Maybe some glow effects to separate from it. And a nice piece of font. Text right there. Bam. I love it. Anyways.
Simplicity, everybody. Stick that in your breakfast and eat it.
I can, gush about editing all day, but...
Then you take your Spice Wheaties and went, BAM!
Yes.
That would be a random little inserts.
Oh, man.
All right. So does anyone have anything else more to say about this, or?
We've done this one a very good justice.
My last dividing note is if you appreciate ultimate simplicity, you should look up Mondrian. Do a Google search on that. There's plenty of Wikipedia to read on him.
You're gonna have
Because
to.
he is the example of ultimate simplicity.
You're gonna have to spell that out because I have no idea what the heck you just said.
I'm going to be editing, so I'll put it on the screen. That's
Thank you.
Mondrian.
Oh,
and he was an
Mondrian,
artist
yeah.
in the Mondrian.
Yeah.
He was an artist in the abstract movement that basically is the ultimate abstract.
Take one art history course and all of a sudden, okay.
It was art appreciation. We touched on him for like one day or whatever.
All right. So our next piece is called Sees Matty and Ray, Happy Hearts and Hooves Day by Trill. I don't really know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry.
Trill? Oh, geez,
Trill?
yeah, no. Wow.
Trill? I really don't know.
DustyKatt, you want to try that name?
No.
Fair
Smart
enough.
choice.
Fair enough.
We'll say Tyler for now.
Okay.
Tyler. It
Tyler.
looks like a Tyler.
Sure.
Tyler sounds like a pretty name.
So this is completely different.
I love it.
This
I love it.
is a wonderfully thought out portrait that you would see probably done back in the 60s or the 50s, where you've got two wonderful characters next to each other. The colors in the mains bring out everything else. They're a pair of white characters, so a lot of the feeling is brought out by the blush, by the colors of the mains and the lighting that's done. The rose is done very, very well. The colors bring out that part of the picture almost too shockingly. I mean, they're really, really deep colors, and
That blue
they
just
set
really
off
hits
the
you.
white characters so well.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
They're so subtle and those colors are
Yes.
so powerful.
Yeah. Well, if you notice, like at the bottom, the characters basically fade into the background.
Yes, they fade in the background.
Yeah.
That was a technique that was done in the 50s and the 60s. I have actually some comics or comic work from that era, and it was a technique that was sort of brought about in that time period.
Very cool.
So yeah, this is 80s week on on Everfree, and we're about two decades or too early with this piece.
We've gone too far.
No.
Yeah.
We've gone too far.
We need to go
Another
back.
Great Scott.
cool thing that I learned in my art appreciation class is those colors, that really bright, like cyan, bright blue, and that kind of that golden yellow. They're very reminiscent of like early 19th century French classical art, because gold held that like angelic quality, and then blue held that. I forget exactly what kind of value it held, but it was like a thing of beauty. So there's like a lot of famous French artists and like art masters, and in their paintings where they'll use that really deep, over-exaggerated blue in like the clothes of like a female character, and then the gold to represent like a male character, angelic figure, or something like that. So I find like these two colors being offset, they're complements, yellow and blue, or no, primaries, excuse me. But I mean, that deep cyan almost gets closer to a complement of orange. But
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, just looking at the hair in general, it's just amazing to me, because you can look at a piece that has basic shading on it. You know, you've got, maybe one color and then a second color that's kind of like the shadow, and then you have like a third like dark shadow and then some lights on top of it. This is absolutely the opposite. This is moving more towards what we've seen in terms of like the photorealistic hair. You got those strands, those individual strands. And I know Pinkie Dash, you're personally like a huge fan of that kind
I'm
of
an
thing.
absolute huge fan of this. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing you're talking about is sort of like anime hair.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
basically, it's ever since the books How to Draw Manga Style came out, it's basically gone way too far in that direction. I mean, everybody bought those books and everybody started drawing that way when they were kids.
Yeah.
And now you've got kids doing nothing but that style nowadays instead of stretching out and doing this kind of thing and learning it and finding the enjoyment in doing this. I used to love doing dot stipple type of pictures, and basically it's sitting there doing an outline, and basically to get your picture, you actually took a techno pen and actually individually put dots on the paper until you got the darkness and you got everything else. I mean, it takes forever, but it's so nice when you do get it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what's so neat about this fandom in general is I think a lot of people who normally wouldn't be reaching out to these different styles are, like this artist maybe, if they had a different art background or if it was a different, show or whatever the different subject would be, maybe they wouldn't be doing this kind of style. But you see everything, like anime, you see this photorealistic kind of stuff, you see some abstract. I know it's kind of hard to find, but you do see some abstract art, so it's kind of cool.
I had a real hard time when I was trying to find abstract art, but there's some of it there. And our fandom's definitely as deep as art itself.
Datomne's got some.
Yeah, Datomne's a very good example.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's not just the way that the fandom kind of inspires this, but we've talked about this a lot, but just these people are coming out of the woodworks and kind of, collecting in one place, collecting around one show, and that's really awesome.
I mean, we can make a show out of it, so it has to be, right?
Yeah, we can make a show about art from a show that was from the 80s. Hey, 80s week!
Yeah. 80. I find it's odd that I couldn't find abstract art, because it's like this community has such a huge appreciation for art, but it's like it's more of appreciation of things of beauty, expression and like realist and imitating the show. But it's like abstract is much more intellectual way of looking at art, and it's much more cold and methodical. And I find there's a lack of that, probably because the show's something that's based on passion,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Speaking of passion, that rose, like Dusty was saying, is really, really well done. Mm-hmm. I love the leaves, how there's kind of like a sparkle on them. It kind of gives it the whole piece is like a 3D effect, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's such vibrant colors, that gold in the hair, and like then that super vibrant like blue, and then you have like the last primary, that red rose, and it kind of creates a really cool little composition with those two colors warping around, that such like a deep vivid rose.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think there's a few repeated patterns, like the blue in her hair, the blue in his eye, then the red of the rose, and the reddish tint of her hair tie.
Maybe kind of. Maybe. That might be a tad bit of a stretch. Just like tying it back to old French art might be a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, it was just those colors really reminded me of it, because a lot of pieces we looked at by artists like constantly had that super, super bright gold, and like they would even use gold leaf to paint in their art, and that super bright like blue where they would use lapis, I think is how it's pronounced, an actual like stone. But
yeah, lapis lazuli.
You're just saying that because Minecraft.
Well, lazuli if you.
You're just saying that because Minecraft.
Yeah. No, it's actually called lapis lazuli, by the way.
Yes.
I know this.
Yes.
Fun fact.
Anyways.
All right.
Actually, I wanted to bring up one more thing, which was
I have one more thing to bring up too. So.
This artist. No, I'm just talking about the artist. No more about the art. We're done with the art. So this artist, who we've what did we say? Tyla. That was our consensus name.
Sure, yeah.
It's one of those artists that we've just kind of had in the queue waiting. So many different pieces that we've just never gotten around to. It's hard to do like portrait pieces a lot of the time. But we really want to feature more from this artist because
definitely go check out their gallery.
A lot of this artist's work is like portraits, like a shot of a character, and all really well done and kind of in the style. No outlines.
You got to get one of these pieces on if we do like a character specific one. Like we'll probably we got to do like a vinyl scratch one at some point. So maybe we'll use his piece there.
Yeah, I'm going to make that point though. The only thing was reflecting things, like reflecting concepts, reflecting colors, or mirrored colors, mirrored angles, mirrored lines. And line work and support, it's important. We saw it in our first example with Shirley, and then
second,
kind of not really in this example, but in a lot of examples where there's been like mimicked areas of line, mimicked areas of color. It's something cool and interesting to look at in art. Maybe we'll get to it.
Yeah, we have to do some color theory episodes, so maybe in one of those.
Oh, yeah.
We got a lot of stuff to cover.
Oh yeah.
Don't you worry about it.
Or if you have a bright, like a huge saturation of a bright, vivid color, and then putting that same color somewhere. Oh, like in our last episode, in our realist episode, with the red flag in Zymo 5's piece, and then the red eyes of the characters, how the color bound
Right.
to those. It's that kind of concept.
Right.
Yeah.
Go watch that. It's a good episode.
Yeah, that was a good episode.
All right.
All right, moving on. Our next piece is called Kissu by Mute Ball, who
Yeah, Mute Ball.
Quickly
fantastic
becoming a
artist.
veteran on this show.
Yeah.
That's Burns doing. This is a wonderful piece by now apparently a CAC veteran. So Dusty, what do you think about this piece?
It is a nice style. It has a lot of primarily bold colors, on top of also having the spatial recognition of the lower left corner. So you've got the bubbles in the front, lower left being one, and the lower right, sort of drawing your eye down, and then it brings it up to the center, and they're off center to the left a little bit, which draws your eye and makes it interesting. If they were directly in the center of the piece, it wouldn't be quite as interesting to the eye. I love the fact that they've got the red-pink combination from lower to high, and then the light, as it comes off of Rarity's upper left area, actually comes and works all the way through the piece, where the dark on the lower left of Fluttershy, actually the light source is correct on this entire piece, where some people would actually put two light sources. You'd have one in the upper right behind Rarity, and you'd have one forward pointing down toward Fluttershy. It would confuse the eye. I like the fact that this is just a one light source, and it works its way from behind her all the way back to Fluttershy. It gives it a very nice warm feeling. As you can tell, this is all warm colors. And they've stayed into the warm color range, which is really nice.
Yeah, even Rarity's purples are very warm purples.
Very warm purples.
Well,
Yeah.
I find that it's like the whole piece is very warm, especially Fluttershy, but I feel Rarity kind of goes into that cooler color feeling just because of like some of the blues in her and then the purples in her, and like purple in her hair and like shading on her face, how her face is kind of in shadow because of the light sources behind her.
But I think the purple itself is quite a warm purple. I know it stands out when you're surrounding it by pinks and reds, but I think it kind of fits in with that piece. It stands out and it fits in.
The colors wrapping around it is what makes it feel cool, really.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Rarity's, like the white on Rarity, even kind of starting to venture into the shadows, it's kind of like a yellowish brownish shadow on her. But then you do have these deep, like cool colors, like in the very tip of her hoof. There's like a really cool purple.
Yeah, I find violet to be a cool color. Like more so than the pinks in this piece, and it's like there's such a saturation of pink and reds and that warm everywhere that it makes it feel even colder to me, so to speak.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's like a contrast there for sure, So I think an important thing. Well, I wanted to bring it back to what Dusty was talking about with the light source there. He's talking about the fact that there is one light source and that people might put two in here. And I think that's really important to talk about, just because, in this kind of piece, I think people are afraid to put characters in the shade.
Yes.
And I think it's not wrong, but I think people should reconsider that.
Unfortunate. Shadows can be just as interesting as the highlights of light.
Yeah. Something that I wanted to point out is that this piece kind of falls within our quote-unquote messy medium again, because you can like visibly see brushstrokes, and it's kind of not as refined as the last piece that we looked at.
Definitely.
But it's still very well done.
It's very consistent of Mewball's work. I'm a big fan. I'll constantly go to her gallery looking for pieces to feature on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean the kind of Mewball does that all the time, like you were saying. And the kind of loose... It's not loose brushstroke, is it?
Yeah, no, you were right. It was...
Okay, yeah, that was the right term. I was trying to figure out which one it was.
unhidden. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one you mentioned this a couple weeks ago, I think, Bernd, but there was that Colgate piece by Ankylosaurus, not Mewball, that has the same kind of style.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was
I
Ankylosaurus
got it
because it
confused
looks
just
very
because
similar.
it was so similar. Yeah.
It was very similar.
Yeah.
That's my bad.
Mewball did the piece with Pinkie Pie in the mirror pool that we featured.
Pinkie Pie and the Mirror of the Lake, and then the milkshakes piece.
Yeah, but still, fantastic artist. Definitely go check out their page.
I definitely love Mewball's work, and I always look at her work for bringing it on the show, and especially she's just an awesome digital painter. There's so many awesome things just about every single painting she does, and how she brings in other colors and pieces. And we talked about it a lot on like the milkshakes piece, and even when we talked about Ankylosaurus's work, how like they'll bring in certain sharp hues on certain portions to kind of either create depth or separate them from other colors. Like I really love, it's just kind of simple, but I really love that that desaturated-ish violet right on the tip of Rarity's hoof, right next to Fluttershy's hoof.
Mm-hmm.
Her kind of back hoof that's like follows the contour of her body. Just that violet like right there, and how it's also right on the tip of Fluttershy's hoof to separate it from her arm, and then like, kind of in the bottom of her neck, and even like above her hoof, separating her arm from her body. Just those certain sharp colors mixed in there, and like hues, I think is really cool, and it's awesome to see in digital paintings. And Mewball always use that in a lot of her pieces, a lot of her work.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, let's go on to our last piece then.
Yep. So we have one more piece, and this piece is called Snoopy Day by a Trill.
Schmoopy day.
Yay!
Schmoopy.
I think it was inevitable. It was inevitable that we'd finally have a piece by a Trill on the show, but we finally found one that would work.
A Trill is an amazing artist.
A Trill is amazing. I actually had him do the artwork for an album that Bronafide and I are doing.
Oh, wow. Really? That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, so
That's cool.
Is that out to see, or is that out to be released?
no, it's soon to be finished.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it
When I
and
finish,
see it.
yes, when I finish this album, I'm actually putting out CD cover artwork. So if somebody downloads the CD and wants to burn it, they can actually download a CD print box, so they can fold it and actually put it into a CD thing. So they actually have a CD with
Very cool.
the cover. But yeah, I had him do the art.
That's awesome.
Love him. I love his artwork. He is wasting his
Amazing.
talent. He's wasting his talent with Pony. Oh my god, this guy could be doing Hallmark cards for a living.
Don't tell him we want him to keep making ponies.
Tons of money.
We want him to keep making ponies. He's right.
He's
Yeah.
passionate
I
about
know.
it. Draw
I know
your
we do.
passion. Keep drawing
I know.
ponies.
Keep drawing ponies. I love you drawing ponies, but this guy should be making mint doing
Oh yeah.
doing tons of stuff for Hallmark, for anybody, because his between
Yeah,
line weight
Actual is amazing.
between line weight and color density and lighting and
Style.
composition. I mean, you can't come up with anything that's bad. I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
The way that the reflections in the eyes are little hearts, and they're having a nice little snack together, hoof to hoof,
Milkshake.
and you've got the tails, the way they curl around. The two characters just ooze happiness,
Cuteness.
like you wouldn't believe, and it's like, oh my god, I need some insulin.
And that Pinkie Pie plushie stealing milkshake is amazing. I just can't stop looking at that little straw going behind the other one's neck.
I didn't even
great.
notice
Drinking
that.
the milkshake.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I just noticed that.
And Trill's an amazing artist in the fact that not only does he make these pieces that are just, hard to even think of a critique, but then all of a sudden he comes out with 5 in one day.
He
Yeah.
does these 30-minute challenges that would take the rest of us
30 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's, oh my goodness, he's so fantastic.
He's probably up there in terms of, I don't want to categorize as best, because I think that's not a great category to look into, but I think in terms of like most
Fantastic,
professional or like most experienced, something like that, a Trill's right up there with the best of them in like all these categories, because man, he's just spectacular at what he does.
He just has the most unique style ever, too.
And the fact, and that too, he does all of this within his own style.
And the fact that he has his own style.
Yeah.
Artists will slave away for years trying to find their voice, trying to find their style, and he's there. I mean, I've seen him draw stuff that's other than pony, and it's his style.
Yeah.
You know?
He's at the point now where other artists want to imitate him and want to imitate his style, myself included.
Yeah. So it comes down to he's learned his tricks, and he knows his line weights, and he does everything digitally. So he's figured out his pen nibs. He's figured out all of that stuff, and basically has just gone to a point where I'm just going to draw now. Now I'm at the point where I've done my 10,000 bad drawings, and now it's like I can just draw.
Yeah. Yeah, something that's great, and we covered this in the Inahoshi episode, is a Trill always makes fuzzy ponies, which is adorable.
Which is awesome, because ponies are supposed to be fuzzy.
Yeah,
exactly. It's got like that small bit of fuzz. You know, the kind of thing that you did for DustyKatt's avatar. That small bit of fuzz, man, goes a long way.
I've been doing that in a lot of my vectors, just because of people like a Trill and Inahoshi.
Yeah, it's shorthand for showing that this character has fur. So basically, if you put these little tufts on his shoulder or put these little tufts on the knee, it basically it's shorthand for the eye, saying, "Oh, well, this is a pony character. So obviously, it has a hide on it. So obviously, it has fur." So it's all shorthand without having to draw every individual little piece of fur.
We were just talking about simplicity on our last pieces, and like this is simplicity in line work to show fuzziness. You just show fuzziness in some of those key important areas, like the bends of arms or heels or tips of ears, and it does so much to create, like, you know, how you imagine the character being fuzzy or being covered.
And if you look at, say, the line weights on these characters versus the Cheerilee Big Mac piece, which we saw earlier in the show, where, yes, these lines are actually thin, thick, thin from point to middle to point. Almost every one of them, if you look at them, it gives the line a visual, interesting point the eye wants to see more of. Whereas the other piece, where it was jaggedy and was interesting in that certain way, these lines are actually more of a smooth. I'm trying to come up with a word, but it's a very nice thing for the eye to see. It gives the characters depth, and if you could see it, if you look at the tails, look at the line weight at the tails, which are at the beginning or at the front of the piece, how thick they are, and as you move back in the characters, they get a little bit thinner, a little bit thinner, a little bit thinner, until you get to the hair on the other side of the characters, where it's the thinnest.
Yeah,
it's still thin, thick, thin, but you've got thicker toward you, and you have thinner behind you, which gives the piece depth.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, you're talking about
line
like
is.
the smoothness of these lines compared to the other one. I want to take a direct contrast to that with the background, because I think the background is one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. And what it does is it takes this smooth, textured, kind of fancy, dark color, and then it has this bright heart. And the heart itself is actually super pixelized.
Yeah.
And what that does is when you look at it, you're like, oh, well, that's weird. It's pixelized. But if you look at where the artist is telling you to look and where you naturally look within the piece, you'll notice that jaggedness smooths out, and then that contrast in color hits you, and it pops out from the background. And it gives this really cool 3D effect. And, you know, this is something that we talked about before. It's kind of along the same lines of, you know, not completing a background because it's not necessary, you know? In this one, it wasn't necessary to make it smooth because he wanted it to pop out. So he said, I'm going to make it jagged because when I'm not looking at it directly, it's not jagged to me. And that's so fantastic.
And again, how we're talking about being visually interesting, it makes you want to look at that jaggedness and then think about it. And again, in composition and wrapping around things, that heart, it wraps around both the characters and kind of helps create that focus. And it definitely really helps separate the kind of darker colored characters from the dark background. So you notice how like their tails and like the bottom parts of the characters will kind of blend into the background there. But then their faces, which, you know, that's the part you want to see, is it really pops out from the background with the white of that heart.
Yeah. And like Dusty was saying, you know, you've got these shapes within pieces that will draw your eyes, whether or not it's the circle in that one piece. I don't remember the name of it. Or whether or not it was the triangle that was with Cheerilee and Big Mac. In this one, it's got a very explicit kind of, an explicit shape that is supposed to, shape how you view the piece. And instead of just having that kind of come out naturally, he's like, here's the shape, there's the center with the cherry, there you go,
Yep.
He's using that.
A term we haven't thrown around yet that's really important is negative space. And it goes this heart goes to show how important negative space is, because that's what the heart is doing, is it's causing those really important parts of negative space in between the character's face, separating their noses there where the cherry's at, and underneath their chins, and then around their heads. It's the area that is around the focus of your piece, which are the two characters, and it's really important, and that's and it's an awesome use of negative space in this piece, I think.
Absolutely.
I agree.
What's interesting is that you can actually see the background pattern continued into the heart, but it's very, very subdued because it's trying to create this negative space.
Like the heart's transparent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, something really cool that we mentioned that is definitely worth a mention in this is the light source.
Yep. Again, the light source is in front of the characters, pointing toward them from your back. And it's reflecting in the eyes, which is actually reflecting back on both characters.
It's almost like the light source is right in between them. Like there's an invisible illuminating heart in between the both of them. Because you notice like the light on their ears, it's in front of that ear, and the back of the ear is in shadow. So it's like right is like their love is what's lighting up the scene.
Oh, you went there. I was going to go there. I was supposed to be the sappy one. Damn it.
Valentine's Day.
Nice. I gotta give you props on that one, Bern. I gotta give you props on that one.
It was worth it. I like it.
Insert cheesy 80s song here.
Well, I think we should sucker a Trill onto coming onto the show and making us fan art, or at the very least, commissioning him some awesome art.
This is a commission, so it is commissions. I'm gonna have to
we
look
should
at his
definitely
commissions.
do something like that
for
because,
something.
man,
Yeah.
he's a great artist.
And
He's
have
worth commissioning.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Fantastic.
He does League of Legends pony art too.
You would like that.
Yeah.
Bringing League of Legends back in here. What, you think this is a gaming podcast? You go to Blue Screen Bronies for that.
Blue Screen Bronies, go check them out. They're cool.
Every Sunday on Everfree Network.
We plug stuff.
And DustyKatt too.
And yeah, go see DustyKatt.
Every Monday.
Yeah.
We'll give you your proper plugs when it's due. And actually, we're getting up a little bit on time here, so do you guys have anything left to say about this piece before we start wrapping up a little bit?
Well, not that
Sleepy
piece.
Rainbow Dash's best pony.
We have. I just kind of wanted to go quickly over the two vectors that Burned and I put together for the.
Oh yeah, those things we put a whole bunch of work into.
The introduction, yeah.
That were barely visible.
So yeah, this piece is by Burned, and it's us dancing like crazy 80s people.
It's so adorable.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh, nice.
Pinkie Dash is Michael Jackson.
I love the accessories that you put on.
Yeah, that was really great of you, Burned. I know. I asked you guys because we were making that 80s intro, and I asked you guys if you could make some big group vectors, and you guys did them in like a few days with not a lot of notice, and that was really awesome of you guys to be able to do. I mean, I wanted to make I wanted to make a really cool intro, so it's really awesome for you guys to kind of participate in that as well.
Yeah, no problem.
And then we also had yours, Flutter Guy.
This is my piece, and I wanted to do something with large 80s style sunglasses. So aviators, wayfarers,
Ray-Bans are the way to go, bro.
Yeah.
Well, Bert, you got a styling pair of gold aviators there.
Yeah, way better than silver.
I haven't seen this one. This one's amazing.
Plasma.
I'm so happy.
This is how we know that Pinkie Dash doesn't watch our intros.
No, I did see the intro. I just happened to miss this one.
I love the face that you gave Pinkie Dash.
Should have been done me with Terminators.
Yes, we'll do that.
Because I had that set of gargoyles back in the 80s.
Oh, that's awesome.
We'll definitely do that.
That's great. I love the expression you gave Pinkie Dash. I love that face.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
I based it off of a Pinkie Pie face, but then I modified it a little bit.
That makes sense.
It's the
Pinkie
boring
Pie
face.
Yeah, the boring face.
It's funny how it's like she
so
says
happy.
it when she says boring, but it's such a great face for just like, yeah, sure.
Well, she also did it in the Pinkie Pie, in the Too Many Pinkie Pies episode. She was looking into Rainbow Dash's what are those called? The sun reflectors.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and she put on that face again. It's great.
It's great.
Anyways, I that was a really good point actually, because we did have a little bit of time, so I think that's perfectly fair. Bring up some of the stuff. You know, that intro was really awesome, and I don't know.
Did we talk about how adorable our avatars are yet?
Oh yeah. Thank you, Silver.
We will. I just wanted to bring up really quickly, for those of you out in viewer land, wherever you may be, let us know what you thought about the intro. I know I personally really like our classic intro. It's short. This one was kind of long. It was like 60 seconds. But you know, if you were interested in that, then maybe in the future we'll think about changing it up. That'd be cool.
I just changed mine up. I had Galaxy Art do me an animation for the intro of our show.
Oh, cool.
And it's awesome. If
Yes,
you guys have
yours
not seen our
is
show,
amazing.
go at least watch the intro. Galaxy Art did a wonderful Cowboy Bebop intro for our show.
Cool. Too
Nice.
cool.
Yeah.
The link for that will be in the description.
Yeah. I definitely like. I remember. I think one of the ones that I sat down and I really watched with you was your Christmas episode, and I watched that intro and immediately I was like, "Whoa!" I think that was that when you were premiering that intro?
We premiered the intro on the Christmas show.
Yeah, and everybody's going crazy. That was a fantastic. I gotta get Galaxy Art to do maybe do an intro for us. Could poke him enough about that. He does fantastic work.
Have him on the show, maybe.
Maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of prospects out there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you haven't touched in art, animation, you name it.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that's Oh, no.
Oh,
Because
no.
we've almost forgotten
The plushie
about the
mistress.
person who stayed up until 8 a.m. in order to finish our avatars, because I'm a stupid butt, and I forgot to tell her what day that we were supposed to have the avatars by. So, a wonderful person by the name of Silver Rain Clouds, who made our Christmas avatars and the 80s avatars that you've seen throughout this entire episode and on the screen right now. Go tell her she's awesome, because she's going to be in the chat and also on her DeviantArt, because I feel so bad because she spent, like, I told her 2 days before we're recording this, and she was like, okay, and then she spent the next, like, 16 hours straight designing and doing these
Drawing,
drawings.
scanning, vectoring over.
Above and beyond.
So
Yeah, right?
above and beyond.
An
And
amazing
so,
friend of the show.
yeah, so
Well done.
she's awesome.
We love you,
So
Silver.
Yeah, thanks,
we want to make
Silver.
sure she gets her proper love for these avatars, because they're not only were they made in a short amount of time, but they're also amazing. And I think
I have the best hat ever.
I don't know. My glasses are pretty cool.
Yeah, you got me there.
My ponytail's
Again,
good.
DustyKatt sees none of this because we're awfully planned.
Yeah, you know what? It is what it is. I'll see it on the replay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's everything for this week, guys. So, Pinkie Dash, you want to do... Oh, no, actually, before we do our plugs, because I should let our guest go first.
Yeah.
DustyKatt, do you want to just plug yourself out there? You know, do you have, like, a Twitter, you know, your show, what time that on, all that?
Sure. Everybody, if everybody doesn't know who I am, I am DustyKatt, also known as the manliest brony in the world. I have a YouTube channel called DustyKatt, amazingly enough. And also, I have a show Monday evenings on Everfree Network called Stay Brony, My Friends, where we will have an epic guest come by, and we will ask questions of them, and then you can ask questions of them. And we've had people like Lee Tokar. We've had, we're going to have Kelly Metzger next week, who is the English voice of Spitfire. So you want to come back and see her. And then I'm also going to be launching a brand new awesomeness, which is coming up soon. So, lots of things to do and see and be. And if you're going to be at any of the conventions like Las Pegasus, I'll be at Las Pegasus. I will be at BronyCon. I will be at Everfree Northwest. And I will be at Equestria LA. So
Look forward to seeing you at Everfree Northwest.
yes, come and see me and say hello, and I'll sign whatever you want.
Take some awesome pictures.
Awesome.
Son, my
In fact,
baby.
Don't we have an awesome episode next week?
We do have an awesome episode next week, but Bernd, you're getting as out of order as I am.
Yeah, let's do the
Because
plugs
we have
first.
to do our plugs first. So,
And then
Pinkie
we'll talk
Dash,
about
go
the
away with the
episode.
plugs.
Plugs. Okay. So, just like every week, we have a DeviantArt account, which is cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com. That's where you can go to see any of our previous episodes, any art that we just can't show on the episodes because we don't have time or it just doesn't fit in, anything like that. Check out the folders. we just add stuff in there all the time. You can also ask questions of us each individually. We're all on there, so you can talk to us that way or send us a note or whatever you want. Our email address is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, please send them in, because we don't have any this week, so that's why, because we're out. So please send us some in so we can ask people, so we can answer them on the show, that sort of stuff. OC episodes coming up, which I'm sure someone will talk about. We've got fan art, anything you want us to see that you just either can't send us in on DeviantArt or you just don't want to, you want to send us in through email. Either way, send it to us there. Just remember to please put what you're sending us in the subject so that Gmail can filter it out for us and we can all find it easily and if things don't get missed. If things get missed, I'm sorry, just please send it again and we'll hopefully see it.
Yep.
Social media and OC stuff.
Yep. We have a Facebook account, which is facebook.com/Cutie Art Crusaders. We've been getting a lot of likes there, which is awesome. And we basically will put out announcements when we have our episodes on Facebook. We also have a Twitter account, which is @CutieArtCrusade. And there you can find up-to-the-minute information on how the show is going, if we're having technical issues or anything like that. Or sometimes we'll just shout out people on there. Yeah, so there is an OC episode coming up. Rainbow Plasma, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I do. So, if you are watching this, then it is February 19th, which means that you have about a week and a half, or 10 days, to submit your stuff for our OC episode coming up. Now, if you don't know what the heck we're talking about, head down to the description. The very first link there will take you to our journal where we describe what our OC episodes are all about, how you can submit, and where to submit, and all that stuff. So make sure to send it in for that, because we're looking forward to having some fantastic OCs on the show, and we might even bring up Mr. DustyKatt's, because I noticed that yours isn't exactly the worst designed OC.
Thanks a lot.
I said it wasn't. I said it was a great... I was my way of trying to say great without saying great. Fair enough?
Okay,
you have a very well-designed OC, my friend.
Thank you. I designed it myself, by the way.
It's a huge compliment from a Canadian.
Yes, thank you.
I don't know what that means.
I'm going to allow this.
Speaking of Canadians,
Yes.
don't we have a super awesome episode next week?
Speaking of Canadians.
We are having a super special guest next week, Burnt.
Super special guest.
We are having Sibsy next week, and as of right now,
I'll be
that's
there.
all you're going to know.
I'm going to be there. I'm breaking the check.
You got it. You got to do that. All right, well, thank you guys for watching, whether or not you're on YouTube or the live stream. We love you all the same. Thank you to DustyKatt for coming on. You're awesome. And
Yeah, thank you
maybe
so much.
sometime I can sneak on your show and make some shenanigans.
Maybe shenanigans may be had.
You know, I know you're a fan of shenanigans. So,
Yes, I'm a fan of shenanigans.
all right. Well,
They have a wonderful onion blossom and shenanigans.
Home of the Blarney Pancakes.
without further ado, this is the end of the show. So thank you guys for coming out. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
I'm Burn01.
I'm FluttterGuy317.
And I'm Pinkie Dash.
And that's Pinkie Dash. You know what? I think I'm DustyKatt.
Yeah.
All right.
And thank you, DustyKatt.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave you with one very special thing at the end. This amazing animation that I've wanted to feature on the show since I first saw it,
Oh, yeah.
Hearts and Hooves Day last year.
Yes.
Check it out, watch it, love it. Animation called Hearts and Hooves Day by Specky SY,
Yep.
one of my favorite artists on DeviantArt.
Pinkie Dash did everything he could to include it in this episode, but we're going to let him have his way. It's an awesome
Specky
animation.
SY is amazing. Yeah.
So enjoy this animation
Go check him out.
after our
Good night,
outro.
everybody.
Bye, guys.
Ah.